Hey everyone, as promised, here is the tutorial on how I created that forced punch look that was in the picture yesterday, posted on my blog. And as you see, we had the picture loaded, and the first thing we're going to do is duplicate the background layer, and we're going to work on these eyebrows and try to slant them down so they look a little bit more mean. And we'll do that real quick by going into our filter menu and going to liquify. And we're basically just going to smudge these down a little bit. I'm using a pretty big brush, but I'm going to work in small strokes. Because if you do too much too fast with this, it just doesn't look right and you're going to end up undoing and starting over again. Okay, that's okay there. Let me move a little bit more there. There we go. And over here, let's go ahead and bring this down. This one's more in a shadow, so it's not to nitpick on this one. Okay, that's pretty good. You get the gist. She's a little bit angry. Let's go ahead and click OK, which is just off your screen here. Okay, and then I'm going to merge that layer down because we're done with that. Then I'm also going to save my image, only because of the next step has been causing Photoshop to crash. Alright, next step, we're going to add a zoom blur to the picture, but we're only going to add it to the outside area. We don't want to add it to her, we want to keep her in focus. And we're going to do that by duplicating the background layer again. We're going to go to our filter menu, and we're going to use a program that I purchased, which is really nice, called Topaz Remask. Okay, if you're not familiar with Remask, it's a very simple program. Basically, whatever you paint in green, which right now is the entire image, Topaz is going to keep. Whatever you paint in red, Topaz is going to cut. And the blue brush is for doing the edges, and that means Topaz is going to analyze that and keep what it thinks it needs to keep and cut what it thinks it needs to cut. And I have to say, it does a really nice job, especially when working with the hair area here. So, if you bear with me for a minute, we're going to paint our edges here. And if your finger gets tired, the nice thing is you don't have to hold it down the whole time. You can release, move your mouse around, and then pick up right where you left off. And bring that down to the bottom. Good. Yeah, if you had to mask this in Photoshop, the hair area would take you forever. So we're going to try and trace as close to the edge as we can. There we go. The fingers, we may have to go back and fine-tune the area in between the fingers because it's so tight and I'm using such a big brush, but it shouldn't be that big of a problem. And there we go. So we have her covered in green. We want to fill in the areas outside of her in red that we don't want included. That includes there, there. And I'm not going to worry too much about this area here. We're just going to leave that alone right now. Okay, so now we just click on the compute button, and my mask hardness, I'm not going to jack it up 100% total, but notch it down to about 90, and that'll give you a nice clean mask around the area. Let's go ahead and compute, and this may take a minute or two. But as I mentioned before, it's still a lot quicker than trying to do this entire thing by hand just in Photoshop alone. And also too, we want to get the zoom effect just on the background area. We want to keep her in focus because she's the one who's actually force punching us. We probably could have done the entire area and just left the focused area on the hand here, but on this picture I actually focused on her face instead of the hand, so we're just going to keep her entire body in focus and you still kind of get the same effect. Okay, the process is done, and if you want to see what it keeps, we click the keep button, and There we go. And if you want to see what it cuts, obviously you click the cut button. Now a little bit, like I said, we got to fine tune here in between the fingers. And we're going to grab the red brush. We can even zoom in on the picture here, and we'll bring the brush down. And we want to cut away this area. And when we release, it's going to recalculate what we did here and pretty much do a good job all by itself. I can't get all the way down there. I could if I wanted to, but we're not going to spend too much time on it. Okay, let's zoom back out. The rest of it looks pretty good. We got nice masking around the hair, which is good. And we're going to click OK. And it saves it to its own layer. And if we hide the background layer, you'll see it's all on its own. Which is what we're going for, because we're going to select the background layer next, and we're going to add that zoom blur. We're going to go up to Filter, Blur, and we'll go to Radial Blur. But we're going to make sure it's on zoom. I'm going to leave it on 30. And here's the one thing that is important. A lot of people don't really know that you can move the center point for where the zoom blur is to wherever you want. And I'm going to guess here, she's in the right on the third there. We're pretty close to where her hand is. And we basically want the zoom coming out of her hand. So that looks pretty good there. Let's click OK. It's going to process that. And we should have our result in a minute. And voila, there you go. So the key here was slanting of the eyes, because we just assume she's an evil Jedi and not a good one. And she's concentrating really hard to give us that force punch, and then the zoom blur on the background area really gives it that effect. There you go. Hope this helps. I hope you enjoyed it, and there'll be more to come.